coach role, have you found yourself in a position where you've maybe responded in a way that you wouldn't advise another head coach to respond?
Oh,
I hope that question
massively,
makes sense.
massively. No, I mean, I would if I were giving advice to myself. No, I think definitely Archie. I mean, the emotions get with you. There's pressure. You know, you've been there. You're playing against Stellenbosch at the Donny Craven. There's sort of 16, 17,000 people watching, and the games, it's tight. And you in your first year, and you desperately want to win. And geez, I mean, in that game, my emotions got the better of me completely, and throughout the campaign. So I think it's, I mean, I wish I had a performance coach who could have helped me along the way. I did have some people who did help me, and my assistant coaches, I think, were brilliant. You know, in their ability to also read me as much as me reading them. You know, I think. You know what pressure does, Archie? Pressure is a magnifying glass on cracks, on anything that exists. So it's like even COVID-19 is like a magnifying glass. If there were cracks in your system, they're being shown up. If there's inequality in your country, it's being shown up. So I think pressure does the same thing. So if there's a little bit of mistrust that I might have in my hooker, for example, or in my scrum coach or my manager or whatever it might be, I think under pressure it comes out.
Yeah.
And my big learning is try and iron out as many of the cracks as you possibly can before the pressure comes, because how you react under pressure could be regrettable. Does that sort of make sense? So I think a big learning there, and definitely some things I'd like to take back.
I was gonna ask you now, if we had to reverse your role again back into sort of the high performance coach, do you think now you've seen the other side and it might affect how you go forward as a high performance coach, or do you think you
look? I think without a shadow of a doubt, it's increased my empathy, and you know, often the high performance coach comes with these wonderful, optimistic, beautiful ways of looking at things, you know, which at times I see as a little bit devoid of reality. And I do hope that through this role, I'm able to see a little bit more of like, oh, I know what it feels like. So I think it's raised empathy. And I've always liked to think, Archie, that success in sport, or in anything, but success in sport, because that's what we're talking about, is not about is Archie good or is Tom good or is Joe good. It's how do we connect together. And I think I'm hoping my ability to see the connections and how the dots connect is improving, and therefore can become a more strategic high performance coach rather than just a guy who comes in and does the workshop and leaves, if that makes sense. But I also know that having been a head coach now, some people would not want me around because I might have too much to say or whatever. I'm aware of that, and that was the risk that I take, that I took. I mean, there's risks everywhere in the world of sport. So I'm very happy that I'm now doing both. I'm actually being a high performance coach in one area and head coach in another, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, for sure. Just quickly, probably the last 2 or 3 questions. The role of the strength and conditioning coach, in your opinion, as a high performance coach, but then also now that you're the head coach, what sort of role do you assign to your strength and conditioning coach in the greater coaching group?
Depends on the sport, I think. In rugby, the second most important person after the head coach, without a shadow of a doubt. I was lucky to go to Australia and work there and be exposed to a lot of the sports. S&C is huge. At the Rebels, the guy, he was called head of athletic performance, and then there was a strength and conditioning coach underneath that, and then 2 assistant strength and conditioning coaches. And it's a little bit like HR. You know, HR in the business world is now being encouraged to be more strategic. So don't just do payroll and, you know what I mean, labor disputes. Be strategic. How are we setting up our culture? How are we setting up the way we're doing things? For me, S&C is the same. Like I've got to consult with the S&C every practice. every week. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Because we've got technical goals, but we've also got physical goals. And we might be able to teach a guy to run a starter play or pass in a couple of days. I can't get him fit in a couple of days. So for me, S&C is absolutely enormous. Maybe it's different in cricket, which is maybe a slightly less athletic sport. But, I'm name dropping here, but I was lucky to have dinner with Justin Langer probably 5-6 weeks ago, who's the Australian cricket coach. He's all about fitness.
Yeah.
These guys are running their tests. What are their tests, Aki? Do they run 1.2s?
Yeah.
That'd be about right.
I wouldn't be 100%
They're
sure.
running 1.2.
1.6.
Yeah, 1.2.
Probably.
I don't think it was 1.6. I think it was 1.2s, because 1.6, they're running like sub 3s. I mean, they fly. These guys are absolutely flying, and his fitness is a big thing. So for him, S&C was massive. But I cannot. I didn't realize the importance of S&C when you and I worked together. I saw you as a good guy to drive positive behaviors, and I got that. I didn't see the strategic whole view. Now I see that the S&C has to be involved in how you coming up with your practices, what you're training, when you're training, because we've got to train physical and technical at the same time, and mental,
Yeah.
Because we actually got to go through some dark times with you. We can train the mental, technical, and physical at the same time if we work together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think obviously, the connection between the S&C and the head coach, I think, is paramount to a lot of the success that the team ultimately gets, because it needs to be a combination of my ideas and your ideas as well. And if we can get that connection right, I think obviously the outcome of the training session is a lot greater.
And I think Aki, don't you find that you've got better at your role as you've also begun to understand the sport better? So you asked me the question about me as a performance coach. I think you also get better as you understand the sport better. I'm sure it's the same with S&C. You might start as a guy who can get people fit and can gym, and then you start to tailor it to the sport. And I mean, obviously years ago, I observed you doing that quite well, and I'm sure you're doing the same in hockey. But the more specific you can be, the better. And as I said, for me, second in command.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, interesting. I think one last question probably that we'll look at is, what are you trying to get out of this period now, specifically individually? What are you trying to get out of this period, lockdown period? What are your sort of main goals as an individual?
I've used the time quite a bit to develop my concept on teaming and thinking on teaming. As you said, I've been doing quite a few webinars and master classes around teaming, which I'm really enjoying. I've been just trying to play around. You might have seen my little 60-second videos. So it's quite a nice opportunity to compile your IP. Like, what am I about? Who am I? What am I? You set up, bring people together, which I wrote down. So that was quite nice of you. But like, just trying to really understand who am I and what do I offer in the world. So that's been one thing. I've spent quite a lot of time reading. I've got some lots of books next to me. I've just finished this one, which I really enjoyed. So trying to read quite a bit. And then obviously in the rugby, really, really using it to drive an energy and an innovation in how we do things. We don't get opportunities to have such long breaks. So how can we really review our campaign? What are we doing and what can we do differently? So, I'm quite impatient around that. So I would say that's that I'm doing in this time.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's actually, for me, it's quite an exciting time actually, because it does give you that opportunity to do a lot of stuff that you wouldn't normally have time to do. So, obviously the upskilling, the educational stuff, and just maybe working on something new as well.
Geez, definitely. I must say, during the last few months when I had the Stormers and the Varsity Cup going at the same time, it was like my life was a blur, And now I actually